Turn, if you would, to Revelation chapter 18. Revelation 18. We're continuing on in this series that started early in the year. I will tell you ahead of time, as I was putting it together earlier in the week, I had a decision to make. I either broke this message into two parts or go a little bit longer and get it in one part. I chose the one part, so I'll tell you ahead of time, it's a little bit longer than normal. There's a lot to get to. In chapter 16, if you recall, in 16, God has poured out his wrath through the 7 bowls. The tribulation is over. But in 17, as we know, the Babylonian system consists of 3 parts, right? We've got a religious system, we've got a political system, as well as a commercial or financial system. 3 parts. In 17, John goes back and starts filling in details as far as how the religious system came into being and how it was done away with. Now that we're in 18, he's going to continue and he's going to start to show us how this commercial system came into being. And the way it ends is far different than the way the religious system ended. So I need you to note as we go through, the kings of the earth, we've seen that phrase a number of times in the series, refers to politicians, kings, parliament, governmental leaders. Okay, they hated the religious system. They just used it, right? They just used it. Once they were able to accomplish what they wanted to in the false Messiah, what'd they do? Kick it to the curb. We don't need that anymore. So they hated the religious system. Ooh, money, 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 money. They love the commercial system, though. And you're going to see that play out in this chapter. Let's pray. Abba, we thank you for the day. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your promises. Lord, there's a lot to get to. And so, Lord, give me the words to say, the proper attitude to say them. I pray for fertile soil, that these seeds that come from me land on fertile soil. Help us by your Spirit, that we not walk out of here the same way that we walk in. Some problems maybe in our lives are going to be addressed today. And Lord, I pray that we would seek refuge and comfort under your wings and through your provisions, and not look to anything or anybody else for what we need. And we ask all these things in Yeshua's name. Amen. Verse 1, after these things I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great authority, and the earth was illumined with his glory. And he cried out with a mighty voice, saying, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place of demons, and a prison of every unclean spirit, and a prison of every unclean and hateful bird. So now we have another angel coming to John. He says with great authority. Whatever is about, we don't have a name for this angel, but at any rate, the entire earth is illumined by this angel, and he has a message for John. Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. Like that little sarcastic little, the Great. Fallen, fallen. So when you see repetition like this, right, there's an emphasis. Fallen, fallen. Yeshua says, verily, verily, I say unto you. When you see repetition, all right, trying to draw your attention to something, Babylon has become what? A dwelling place of demons. Babylon has become a prison of every unclean spirit. Babylon has become a prison of every unclean and hateful bird. And so you're starting to see it's a fitting place for a judgment. It's a fitting place. And birds are going to play a part when we get to chapter 19. Okay, verse 3, for all the nations have drunk of the wine of the passion of her immorality. And the kings of the earth have committed acts of immorality with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich by the wealth of her sensuality. So, because God is holy, he must judge this system, Babylon, because this system has polluted all the nations. This system has corrupted the nations. It's intoxicated all the nations. If we remember the sin of the harlot, that religious system last week, the sin of the harlot was fornication. Now we're starting to look at this commercial system / political system. Watch, it'll play itself out. And what's the sin of this system? Once again, fornication. Now, if you're going to have fornication, you got to have a couple parties involved, right? At least two. So who are they? The nations. Okay? The kings, government. The merchants, business. You're starting to see how this thing is starting to weave itself together. Believers, for ages, have been warned through the scriptures, do not become polluted with the things of this world. Do not become infatuated with them. Do not love them. What the world has to offer you, stay away from it. Don't get yourself involved in the riches. Do not get yourself involved with the pleasures. We looked at it 2 weeks ago or so in our Tuesday night Bible study, 1 John 2. And what does John, the same writer of Revelation, what does he say in 1 John 2, beginning in verse 15? Do not love the world, nor the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the boastful pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world. The world is passing away, and also its lusts, but the one who does the will of God lasts forever. You've heard it. If it wasn't so sad, it'd be comical. You've seen men, and it happened to women, obviously, but you've seen men, politicians, sports athletes, commercial, big executives, so on and so forth, right? Important, influential men. And they get caught in adultery, right? They get caught in adultery, and what's the words they say when they get caught? It was a mistake. It was a mistake. Oh, baby, I made a mistake. What I've done, it's a mistake. It's not a mistake. That's no mistake. All right. By the time you wind up in the bed with the woman, that's not a mistake anymore. That was planned out. See, a mistake is when like an actor has a script and he recites the script and then he stands before the camera and the director says, action. And he goes ahead and he forgets a line. Okay, that's a mistake because he never meant to do it. But that's not adultery. Oh, no. By the time you get into bed, okay, that problem started way back in the heart. And Yeshua addresses this. You've heard it said that if you commit adultery, you commit sin. But I say unto you, if a man lusts after a woman in his heart, he's already committed adultery. So you see, Yeshua's going right past the action of it all, and he's going right to the root. Because remember, whenever you see a weed out in your yard, that root was there well before you saw the weed. It's not a mistake. Okay? So we got these three things that John is talking about. Lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, pride of life. Perfect example is David. Love David. Man after God's own heart. David, king, power, position. Wealthy, good looking, artistic. Man, the guy had it all, right? And he knew it. And something happened within David. Something started swelling. It's like leaven. And a little leaven leavens the whole lump. Just a little bit. And something got in David's heart where he wasn't satisfied with his wife. Something was there, in addition to the position, the power, and everything. And he felt, not only can I have anything I want to have, I can have any woman I want to have. And it was there. It was already there. But see, it takes two to dance. And so now you've got, that's the lust of the flesh. It's already started. And David didn't deal with it. So now he just needs a partner. And suddenly he goes and he sees Bathsheba. The problem with David isn't that he saw her, that he saw a naked woman. He feasted his eyes on her. See? So he's already got the problem going on in here, and now he sees her. Beautiful. And I've always thought, even though the Bible doesn't mention it, but you don't think Bathsheba wasn't like a willing participant in this? Because I don't know, ladies. I mean, how many of you go sunbathing naked where your neighbors can see you? You don't think she didn't know where the presidential palace was? She put that worm on that hook and said, I'm going to get me a big fish today. And she got it. And he saw, and he's already got the problem going, and he goes, you know what, I can have her. I can. Lust of the eyes. Lust of the eyes. But we got one more step to go. We got more. And so he calls for her, and he takes her. Lust, or the pride of life. What is that? The pride of life. In other words, I can do whatever I want to do. I can sleep whatever who I want to say. I see her, I'm going to take her, and I'm going to do whatever I want to do with her in front of a holy God without consequence. That's the pride of life. That's the pride of life. Without consequence. I can get away with this. Moses said about Eve, same three things. She saw the tree was good for food. Lust of the flesh. He then writes, it was a delight to the eyes. Lust of the eyes. She took and she ate. What God said is, it's not going to apply. The day you eat of it, you will die. Pride of life. Do not fall in love with the things of this world, John says. It could be sex. It could be your retirement fund, your portfolio, your house, your car, vacationing, whatever it may be. Do not fall in love with those things. Why? John says, because they're dying. They're passing away. They're passing away. There's no one in this room who's stupid enough to take your life savings on Monday morning, get a hold of the New York Stock Exchange, and put everything in on a stock that's going to go belly up the next day. No one is stupid enough in this room to do that. And that's exactly what we do. Because we invest our time, our treasure, and ourselves, our blood, sweat, and tears in stuff that we're leaving behind. That's what Solomon said. Vanity, vanity, all is vanity. We're talking about the richest man in the world, and he looked at everything and went, I find no pleasure in any of this. Nothing. Nothing. So not only do we invest in the things that are going to pass away, like Solomon says, when you die, you're going to leave it off to somebody. Now, one or two things are going to happen. Either they're going to just squander everything because they don't care, they didn't work for it. Or they're going to die and they're going to leave it to somebody. But eventually, you know what's going to happen? God's going to burn up the whole thing. So all the clothes in my closet and these great shoes that I have, which I bought years ago, and all listen, they're all going to get burned up. Why would you invest in something that's going to die? So not only does John say you're wasting your time doing that, but then guess what he says? The lust of those things is going to pass away. So when you get to the kingdom, when you get your new glorified body, you're not going to lust after these things. You're not going to lust after that car, or I need a bigger house, or I need more clothes, or I need another purse, or I need the latest iPhone, or the latest Galaxy. I need all these things. The very lust for those things you're not going to have when you have your glorified body. So John warned us in his epistle, don't fall in love with the things of this world. This heavenly voice in Revelation is going to say the same thing. Verse 4, I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, so that you will not participate in her sins and receive of her plagues. For her sins have piled up as high as heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. So God is saying to you and me, do not fall in love with the things of this world, and do not allow the things of this world to pollute your life. Don't do it. Come out from that stuff. He has demanded since the beginning a separation. All right? Saved, lost. Right? Holy, unholy. Clean, unclean. Sheep, goats. Wheat, tares. You can't blend the two. You can't blend the two. So he says, get out of that. Get out of that stuff. When it came to Abraham, he's going to take Abraham, he's going to make something in there. Father Abraham. What's the first thing he told Abraham? Get out of that country. Get out. Why? It's pagan. Everything. It's idolatry. The idols are everywhere. Paganism is everywhere. Get out of that. Come on. I'm going to make something out of you, but I'm not going to do it there. When it came time for Israel, he has now built Israel, but now he needs Israel, right, in Egypt. He needs Israel to be an army, and he needs Israel to be a kingdom of priests. They got the numbers now, but now he needs to do something with them. He didn't leave them in Egypt, okay, with the Euphrates and the leeks and the garlic and all those wonderful things. No, I got to get you out of there. I got to get you out. Separate yourself from all that nonsense. Lot, get out of Sodom. Get out of there. I'm going to destroy it. When he got Israel out into the wilderness, now Joshua is going to be the leader. When you get into the land, what did he tell them? You're going to run into Canaanites and Hittites and Perizzites and all kind of ites, right? When you get in there, you kill every man, you kill every woman, you kill every child, you kill every animal. I have given them over 400 years to repent, and they've chosen not to. You slaughter them all. Now, at first, some people would look at that and say, I can't believe you would worship a God who tells people to kill little children. How awful. Okay, two issues. Number one, God is sovereign. So if he's the creator and he can do nothing wrong, then all of his decisions are true and just. He is providential. The created does not point the finger at the creator and say, you got this one wrong. Never. That's number one. Secondly, those who know me, right, especially down here in Florida, since I moved down to Florida, it's even worse. If you know me, I hate, there's not an English word that has been created to tell you how much I hate roaches. I hate, because when you see one, right, they don't come alone, right? They got buddies, right? And the first time I remember I went, it was like 2007 or so, and I saw, I mean, it was like you could have mounted and like take it down to the ocean and just like do one of those like, you know, kind of deals. I mean, it was so huge. And I realized at that point, like, everybody gets those. But the other ones, no offense, the Germans, all right, they're called, that's what they call them. I didn't make up the name. So I am one, so, you know, but that's what they call them. When you see them, right, when you see those guys, it's like you get the exterminator over real quick. Do you ever tell the exterminator, all right, leave the little ones behind? Leave the, you know, I mean, my heart, it breaks for the baby ones, right? Because the baby ones are going to become adults. And guess what the male roach is going to do? He's going to find a female roach. And then they're going to get down and nasty, and they're going to be a whole bunch of little tiny roaches. And you think you got problems. Now you have a house that's infested with them. And God is saying, when you get in that land, kill everything. Because they're roaches. You got to slaughter everything. He knew what these little baby roaches were going to turn into. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Do not participate in her sins and receive of her plagues. When I dish it out, don't get caught in the crossfire. Don't get caught in that crossfire. Lot, you better get out of there, because judgment's coming. For her sins have piled up as high as heaven. Woo, like stinks to high heaven. It's like bricks. Every sin, and all of a sudden you got like the Tower of Babel all over again. Listen, as we continue, I hope I'm not sharing something new with you. The business world out there, the companies you work for, other companies, Fortune 500 companies, not only here in the United States, but around the world. Listen, they hate God. Okay, there are some employees you work with They're born-again Christians. They love the Lord just like you do. But companies, holistically speaking, hate God. They don't care about God. They don't care about godly standards. They don't care about biblical ethics or anything like that. All they care about is the almighty dollar. That's all they care about. Okay? They may make it look like they care, but they do not. They don't care about standards. All right? I work for a company, major cable company. Okay? You can probably figure it out, right? They bought NBC Universal. And every year they would have you, as technicians, you had to sit down at a computer once a year, and you went through this tutorial. And you watched the video, and you had to read. And then there was a series of questions, fill in the blanks, multiple choice, all this stuff at the end. You had to get 90% and pass. The test, the tutorial, was sexual harassment. Okay? Now, so you had to pass it. Sexual harassment. Every year you had to do this. So, ladies, do you honestly think the company cares about you? Do you honestly think, ladies, that the company cares who the technician's sleeping with? Or if the technician goes ahead and says something inappropriate to you? Do you think the company actually cares if he reaches out and gropes you or anything like that? No. You know why the company puts these tutorials together? Heaven forbid you sue them. See, it's all about the almighty dollar. Because, you see, as long as I give you a tutorial, Rob, and you go out there and you do something inappropriate and I get sued, oh, but I gave him a tutorial, you see. And he saw it, and he watched it, and he answered all the questions. So he knew exactly how we felt about the issue. See, it's all about the money. They don't care about you. Businesses don't care about the Sabbath day. Okay, they don't. All right. God bless Chick-fil-A. Listen, they may have, and they're good too. They may have the Sabbath day wrong, but man, at least they're trying. What was that? Yeah. Oh, okay. Right? But businesses don't care. They don't care about biblical standards. All they care about is the almighty dollar. You mean to tell me we got multi-billion-dollar companies here in the United States of America, Fortune 500 companies, where the CEOs and high-level management, they're living in mansions, they're driving Rolls Royces, they're driving BMWs, they're driving Bentleys, they're living down on the water, they got yachts, they're living high on the hog. And you know what? All the employees who they're making all their money off of, who are down at the lowest of levels, and they're struggling, and they're stressed out, and they're working hard, and they're starving, and they're suffering trying to get by while they're living high on the hog. You think that's biblical? The Bible says not to do that. They don't care. I'm not against anybody in wealth. What are you doing with it? Are you becoming a blessing? See, everybody wants the blessing, but what are you going to do with the blessing? God doesn't give you a blessing so you can load your bank account up. God gives you money and wealth in order for you to be a blessing to others. That's why so many of us were begging, I want money, Lord bless me. And he's like, no, you're not going to do anything with it. I'm going to give you a dime. So God sees. God sees everything these companies and CEOs are doing. He sees. And guess what? God has remembered her iniquities. That's why God told Israel, when you get in the land and you have servants and employees and things, you're not going to treat them any way you want to treat them. If you strike one in that ancient world where human beings were garbage, if you strike one, that employee can turn around and leave. You're not going to treat people any way you want to. You know why, Israel? Because you once were in Egypt, and you better remember that. You better remember where you came from. Verse 6, pay her back even as she is paid, and give her back to her double according to her deeds in the cup which she has mixed. Mix twice as much for her. To the degree that she glorified herself and lived sensuously, to the same degree, give her torment and mourning. So you see what God does? Woo. Give back to her double, mixed twice. So what he does is he sees what these Fortune 500 companies are doing. He sees what these corporations and big businesses are doing to people. He watches. And it's just like a coffee cup. And it's just like it sits there and he watches and bitter water drips, drip, drip, drip. And he watches and drip. And before long, that cup's starting to fill up. And when it gets full, he picks up that cup. He takes these people by the back of the head, open up your mouth, and pour everything down in there. And see, not only that's not good enough. You know what he does? Then he sets the cup down and pours more bitter water in it because I'm going to give you double. Because that's Torah. See, he's always true to his Torah. If I steal $20 from you, not only do I have to give it back $20, I got to give you another 20 just because I stole it. See, that's Torah. So this Babylonian system has seduced the world with idolatry. Guess what else? He writes, she glorified herself. She glorified herself. So as you're going to see, this financial system that is going to come to its full flowering in the tribulation, they're going to think, it can't be dethroned. This cannot be defeated, what we've amassed here. What else? They lived sensuously. To live sensuously, luxuriously. That means you're living way up here, and you got all the splendor, and you have all the glory, and you're living in your high-rise mansion, and you're driving all these cars, and the very backs of the employees that you're pushing down, you're pushing their face down in the mud, and you're making all your money. That's living sensuously. God sees. God sees. See, it's bad enough what David did. When you look at David the king, you can look at him like a CEO, right? He took Bathsheba because I'm going to do whatever I want with her in front of God. But see, he took something that didn't belong to him. It belonged to Uriah. But he, in his pride and in his flesh, he felt, you see, Uriah doesn't mean anything. I can push him down and I can take whatever I want to take. Continue in verse 7. For she says in her heart, I sit as a queen, and I am not a widow, and will never see mourning. Whew, my husband will never die. See, this system, it's never going to crumble. For this reason, in one day her plagues will come, pestilence and mourning and famine, and she will be burned up with fire, for the Lord God who judges her is strong. They're going to have the audacity of saying, this financial system which we have, this one world economy, not even God can destroy this. For this reason, in one day her plagues will come. One day. God's going to let it go, let it go, let it go, and then the whole thing's going to crash down. So remember, they couldn't stand the religious system. Remember something. Politicians, as well as big business, okay, again, they have no use for God. You see, the moment, this is what politicians and big businesses want from you. They don't want, in reality, they don't want you on your knees looking to God for anything. Politicians don't want that. Politicians want you on your knees begging them for stuff. See, and that's what we've produced in this country. We've got people on their knees begging the politicians, Democrats and Republicans, I need housing. I need health care. I need food. I need a job. I need all these things. And it's where does God come in on that? Because now politicians have become God. Verse 9, all the kings of the earth who committed acts of immorality and lived sensuously with her will weep and lament over her when they see the smoke of her burning, standing at a distance because of the fear of her torment, saying, woe, woe, the great city Babylon, the strong city, for in 1 hour your judgment has come. So not only will all the CEOs be wailing and crying and, oh my word, oh, but guess who else? The kings of the earth. See? What they make for such interesting bedfellows. Big business and politics. Right? Politics and religion, iron and clay. They don't mix. Business and politics, there's like two peas in a pod. Keep in mind, John's day, Rome. Rome was the, T-H-E, capitals, the center for world trade and government. Rome, right? If you wanted to know the latest fashions, Rome. If you wanted to taste the finest of cuisine, Rome. If you wanted to see or buy the greatest artwork that the world has to offer, Rome. Everything was Rome. Everything. So this false Messiah, Antichrist, if you will, the governmental leaders, they can't stand the religion. We used it, get it out of the way. Now we've got a false Messiah who has elevated himself not only above government, he is a lone dictator, and he is to be worshipped. But you still got business and government working together. Business and government. And so they're intertwined. And to this day, you see it, right? I mean, when one sneezes, the other catches a cold. Business, politics. Politics, business. And you see it, and if you don't believe me, it exists to this day. When the United States sneezes, the whole world catches a cold. Okay? Harken back, September 11, 2001. Those terrorists, demonically driven, I might add, they knew exactly where they were going. Okay? Now, I'm not talking about the plane in Pennsylvania, because that one was headed to one or two places, either the Capitol or the White House. Okay? But the other ones, the first ones, World Trade Center, New York City, Pentagon, Washington. Business, government. They knew exactly where they were going. And once those planes hit, the reverberations went around the whole world. Because all of a sudden, Deutschmark went down, and the yen went down, and the peso went down, and every kind of else went down. Because, man, look what happened. So when one gets hit, the whole world feels it. Watch. Verse 11. And the merchants of the earth weep and mourn over her. Remember, all they care about are the wallets. Continuing verse 11. Because no one buys their cargoes anymore. It's all about the money. Cargoes of gold and silver and precious stones and pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and every kind of citron wood and every article of ivory and every article made from very costly wood and bronze and iron and marble and cinnamon and spice and incense and perfume and frankincense and wine and olive oil and fine flour and wheat and cattle and sheep and iPhones and Samsung televisions. So you got all this array of merchandise, right? Making money for the government and for businesses, right? Citron wood. I saw that, I'm like, okay, the other stuff I got to look into this one. So it's a very, very valuable, expensive wood that was used in cabinet making and luxurious furnishings and those. I mean, this isn't like going to Target and picking up something in the box and assembling it. No offense, I go to Target. So, but we're talking high-end stuff. We got spices and we got perfumes and we got expensive wines and breads and livestock, right? Because Rome was no different at that time than your major metropolitan cities today. Look in the United States, whether it's New York, Boston, LA, Chicago, Miami, Detroit, Memphis, St. Louis, whatever, right? When you go down to Miami, do you ever see like farms like in the middle of South Beach? You know, cattle grazing and everything, like chickens walking around Brooklyn or anything? You know, maybe not. But, all right. But wait a minute. But you go in the grocery stores and all the shelves are full. And the freezers are full. And how did that happen? They ship it in. Trucks, trains, right? Planes, trains, automobiles, whatever like that, right? You got to ship the stuff in. Rome was no different. Continuing verse 13. And cargoes of horses and chariots. So now we got military equipment. Ooh. And slaves and human lives. Wiersbe in his commentary wrote this, quote, listen, it has been estimated that 1/3 of Rome's population was enslaved. And it was not unusual for 10,000 human beings to be auctioned off in one day in the great slave markets of the empire. There were probably over 60 million slaves throughout the empire, people who were treated like pieces of furniture, bought and sold, used and abused. I've heard criticisms of Yeshua. I've heard criticisms of Paul's letters. They never dealt with the slavery issue. If they opened up their mouth about the slavery issue in Rome, with a Roman Empire, they would have been killed because the entire empire was built on slavery. Here in the United States of America, okay, if you think slavery has been done away with, you are wrong. You're wrong. Now, mind you, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed by President Abraham Lincoln, which formally ended slavery here in the United States of America. Trust me, slavery is alive and well in the United States of America. And I'm not even talking about like the sex slave, because what they're doing is they're going across the border into Mexico and kidnapping teenage Mexican girls and other runaways, and they're carting them across the American border, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and they're auctioning off these girls as sex slaves. That's going on in this country. Okay, that's happening. I'm not talking about that. Slavery is alive and well here. In fact, there may be even a few here in this room. Slaves to debt. Oh, slavery is alive and well. Because what we have done, we as believers, we've been tricked. We've been tricked by this world. Because this world has tricked us into believing, you know what? What God has given you, it's not good enough. Don't be content. Mercedes-Benz has a commercial out. If you listen to their slogan, the best or nothing. See, that's the mentality. You can have more. See, God has said, I will give you food to eat and water to drink and a roof over your head and clothes to wear and air to breathe. I will give you what you need. But that's not good enough. And what we do is we take our little fist and we wave it in God's face and say, you know what, this life that you have given me, it's just not good enough because I see my neighbors over here and they got this, and I want that. And so what we do is that we start spending. Spending money we don't even have. And we got believers in the body of Messiah today who are slaves. Slaves. You're not free at all. And you're slaves to Visa and slaves to MasterCard and Discover and American Express and Chase and Bank of America and PNC and Wells Fargo and student loans, and I got this and I got this. And what happens is, and Dr. Tony Evans mentioned in a message not even a week ago, he said when we go ahead and we just start digging ourselves, right? Digging it, because no grave is ever dug with one spoonful of dirt, right? You got to keep going. And I got to have this. And that iPhone, there's a new one coming out. And I got to, well, what's wrong with your car? Got to have another car. Well, why? Because that new car's got Bluetooth. And I got to have this. And it's got the backup cameras. And there's a tablet that just came out. I got to have it. And I got to have another pair of shoes. And I got to have some more clothes. And I got to have this. And what we do is we dig ourselves into a hole. And then when it comes to that tzedakah box, well, I can't give. And the things that are passing away, that are dying, that you're going to leave behind, you're sweating and you're running yourself ragged and you're working overtime and you're bleeding and everything and you're working your fingers to the bone for something that you're going to leave behind. And the things that are eternal, I can't find the money for. We've been tricked. We've been tricked. The world has tricked us. And we don't look any different than the world. Because I just gotta have. I gotta have stuff. Tony Liston, Liston. I read the story in Dr. Craig Keener's book because I don't have the magazine Mission today. And Dr. Keener tells the story of Tony Liston, who was an Oklahoma pastor. He went on a mission trip to the Philippines. Whatever happened, whether it was from the food, the water, circumstance, he got ill, not deathly ill, but enough where he had to check himself into a hospital. He went to go to the hospital in the Philippines, and he noticed a beggar woman that was laying on the ground outside, leaning against the hospital. And he saw her. And he went on in, and they checked him out, and they kept him there for 2 days in this Philippine hospital. Total bill for 2 days, $47. You can't walk into a U.S. hospital and sneeze and not be charged more than $200. I mean, less than $200. 2 days he was in this Philippine hospital, $47. He was fine. He checked himself out. As he's walking, he walks around the back. He walks past the hospital dumpster. And in the dumpster was the naked corpse of the woman that he had saw 2 days before. And he was shocked and appalled, and he ran back into the hospital to let the hospital personnel know, man, you got a dead body out in your dumpster. And you know what they told him? She had no money. She had no money. So they took her and just, human being, just like you, they took her and threw her in the dumpster. See, folks, that's how people are living in our world today. See, we live in this bubble here in the United States of America, and we're so pampered with everything. And we got people dying in the streets, and their bodies are being thrown in dumpsters. See, and we get upset when the internet's not working right. Or, the AC in my truck just, I feel so uncomfortable in here. Oh, so hot. See? Or, my phone, I got to have the newest phone. And we got people in other countries that are dying because she didn't have $47 to go inside the hospital. You take this whatever way you want to. There's a magnet on the back of my truck. It's been there for almost as long as we've been married. And it says, it's Pogus Ministry Incorporated, and it says, the phone number on it, helping the needy in Haiti. I've had it on there for years. Do you know how many red lights I've stopped at? Do you know how many supermarket parking lots I've stopped at? Do you know how many places I've gone? How many people do you think have seen that magnet over the last almost 4 years? You know how many phone calls we've gotten? What do you do with that? What do we do with that? We got people dying over there. We can't find money for that, but man, I got to have my cell phone. I can find the money for Verizon and T-Mobile and AT&T and Sprint and Metro. I can find the money for that, but I can't find money to help people who are dying, who have no food, who lack clothes. I don't have for that. I'm sorry, can't help you out. I know of a couple, believers. They got good jobs, but guess what? It's just not enough, so now I'm going to go to school. I have to go to school to further my education so I can get a better job even. And then when you go and say, hey, can you help out the ministry or whatever? Oh, yeah, I'll have to talk to, I don't know yet. Man, God sees this stuff. So don't think that slavery is over with in this country. No, the taskmasters just look different. They're not carrying around whips. The taskmasters have names: Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover. And then we can't give to the things that are eternal. Folks, you get one shot at this thing. You only get one life, and the days are slipping by. You're closer to death today than you were yesterday. So when are you going to start living for Him? Because I love the attitude that we as believers have. We think, well, when I get to heaven, that's when I'll start serving the Lord. Really? No. You see, that's not the way it goes. See, if you're not going to serve Him here, you're not going to want to do it there. If you don't want to sing here, what makes you think you're going to sing there? See, that's why it says Yeshua has to rule with a rod of iron. because people just don't want to do what they want to do. They're going to do what they want to do. Verse 14, the fruit you long for has gone from you, and all things that were luxurious and splendid have passed away from you, and men will no longer find them. The merchants of these things who become rich from her will stand at a distance because of the fear of her torment, weeping and mourning, saying, woe, woe, the great city, she who was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour such great wealth has been laid waste. And every shipmaster and every passenger and sailor and as many as make their living by the sea stood at a distance. The fruit that you long for is gone. I told you early in the series, what did I say? When we get to the tribulation period, the food's going to be rationed because there just won't be enough of it. And the one way you control people is to control the food. And so food is going to be rationed. And it's going to be crazy time when people are killing themselves over a can of ravioli. We got politicians that are crying. We got the merchants that are crying. Financial institutions. Who else? Every shipmaster and every messenger and sailor, and as many as make their living by the sea. So the whole transportation industry. Everybody's involved in it. 18. And were crying out as they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like the great city? And they threw dust on their heads and were crying out, weeping and mourning, saying, woe, woe, the great city, in which all who had ships at sea became rich by her wealth. For in 1 hour, she's been laid waste. Not going to take long. You've been working on that portfolio and that bank account for all these years. 1 hour. It's gone. See, that's why people don't understand. It's like, I don't know how much you have in the bank, and it really doesn't matter. Because in one day, all that $20 bill that's sitting in your wallet, it can turn to paper like that. And it's just numbers on a piece of paper. And then what are you going to do? See? The earth dwellers are crying, and they're weeping, and they're wailing. Look who's rejoicing, verse 20. Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you saints and apostles and prophets, because God has pronounced judgment for you against her. Don't ever look at this world and what this world has to offer you from the world's perspective. And that's what we do. We see things from down here where we ought to be going up there and looking down on them, because all this is going away. It's not going to mean anything. Your house, gone. Your car, gone. Your clothes, gone. Your jewelry, gone. Your portfolio, gone. It's all gone. And the only thing you got left is standing before God, and he's going to say, what have you done for me? And you can't reach back down. We have been, as believers, we've been persecuted by this system, the commercial financial business system. We've been persecuted by it for thousands of years. Thousands of years. Believers. Let me introduce you to Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson, born-again Christian, our brother, and a strong one. He used to be the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, okay? And he's very outspoken about his faith. He had a young team at the time, and they just couldn't get over the hill. They couldn't get over that hump. And the organization, the team, they fired him. And they brought in another coach, new philosophy, new offensive network and everything. And he took them to the next level, and they went on to 5 NBA finals, and they've won 3 championships. But Mark Jackson, ever since that firing years and years ago, not only has he not got another coaching job, he hasn't even gotten an interview. And Kendrick Perkins and other NBA players came out on social media and said, hey, he's being blackballed because the man's a Christian. And everybody knows it, and nobody is hiring him. Now, he's a preacher. He's got a church. He went on to ministry, and he's doing some work for ABC. So God's providing for him. See, but there's going to come a day. See, God sees. God sees, and he just writes down. And he's watching. He's writing it down. And one day, he's going to avenge Mark Jackson. And he's going to avenge each and every one of you that has ever suffered at the hands of some supervisor, manager, business for your faith. You stood up for your faith and you've been persecuted, or you got fired, or they wouldn't give you that raise, or whatever it was. And trust me, God is seeing it, and he's going to avenge you someday, and he's going to pour his wrath out on that company. It will happen. Verse 21, then a strong angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, so will Babylon, the great city, be thrown down with violence, and will not be found any longer. And the sound of harpists and musicians and flute players and trumpeters will not be heard in you any longer, and no craftsman of any craft will be found in you any longer. And the sound of a mill will not be heard in you any longer, and the light of a lamp will not shine in you any longer, and the voice of the bridegroom and bride will not be heard in you any longer, for your merchants were the great men of the earth, because all the nations were deceived by your sorcery. So he is going to pour out his wrath on this Babylonian financial commercial system that is in cahoots with the government. This one world government. And when he does, all the luxuries, gone. And the necessities, gone. And the manufacturing industry, gone. And the music industry, with all its filthy rap music and all that stuff, gone. And the entertainment industry, that's putting out R-rated movies and pornography and making fun of God and making fun of the Lord and the Bible, that's going to be gone. It's all going to be gone. Guess what else? Even weddings. Even weddings, straight and homosexual, all gone. Why? Because all the nations were deceived by your sorcery. Sorcery. When you think sorcery, you think witchcraft. But the Greek word that John uses, ready? Pharmakeia. Ooh, that sounds familiar. Pharmakeia, pharmacy. Pharmaceuticals, the administration of drugs. Now, why would John use pharmakeia, which does mean administration of drugs, but it also means sorcery? Why would that one word have two definitions? Because everywhere where you find sorcery, everywhere where you find magic, black magic, everywhere where you find witchcraft, voodoo, Satanism, you're going to find drugs. You're going to find drugs. Not only that, but what are we dealing with here? Materialism. The lust for I just can't get enough. I'm not content with what God has given me. I'm not content with the car I drive or the clothes I'm wearing or how much I have in the bank. I'm not content, and so I'm going to dig myself into debt in order to have what I want. And you know what? It's a drug. It's addicting. I can't have enough. It's addicting. Pharmakeia. Verse 24, and in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all who've been slain on the earth. Satan has used religion and politics and business to persecute believers for thousands of years. Nothing new. It's going to continue on right on through the tribulation until he puts an end to it. As you see the first half of the tribulation, hey, religion and politics and commercialism, man, they were getting along really well. And then the politics and the commercialism looked at religion and said, man, we got to get rid of this. Out it goes. So God will avenge all of those who trample on his people and persecute his people and hurt his people. That's why it's like, hey, when they don't give you the raise, praise the Lord. When they go ahead and they start pounding you down because you took your Bible to work, praise the Lord. Because he sees. He'll take care of everything. You handle your business. You keep worshiping me. You keep serving me. You keep walking in my ways. I'll handle them. That's it. My daddy is up there. He will take care of my problems. All I'm going to keep doing is just worshiping and praising and singing to him. Because you better get your acts together before he gets mad at you. In conclusion, talk about the heavenly perspective on things. I don't know the names of the individuals. I forgot because I heard this story. I read it so many years ago. Well before house alarms and cell phones and those kind of things. It was a husband and wife. It was a Sunday morning. He, from what I recall, he was a very successful surgeon, had done very well for himself, had a beautiful home, beautiful family. They were getting ready for church on a Sunday morning. They get the family together, they get in the car, they go to church. As they left out of church that afternoon, they're coming home. Remember, no cell phones or anything like that. And they see, and you could imagine the horror, when you look down the street and you see a bunch of fire trucks in front. And they pulled up to the house, and the whole house had burned down. And they got out, and they don't know how it happened or whatever. Within time, the pastor of the church brought some congregants from the church. They came over to console this couple who had lost everything. Everything. Listen, as they were consoling him, you know what the wife said? And the husband was standing right by the side. The wife looked at everybody, the pastor and everybody, and said, "Don't cry for us. You see all these other homes? All these people are lost. Do you know, by this happening, how many opportunities we're now going to have to share the gospel with all these people?" That's a couple. They're not looking at what they got here on the ground and saying, "Man, this means something to me." And they're looking at it from a heavenly perspective, an eternal perspective, where it's like, hey, that house means nothing. That soul means everything. That's where you need to be focused on. The very car you're going to drive home in, it's going to be gone someday. Don't worry about it. But what are you doing for God? That's what you got to take a look at. What are you doing for the Lord today? What are you giving to the Lord today? And you can't, I don't have it. I've heard that, I can't really give. Well, how do you put gas in your car? With what? Well, you're driving in Florida, so you got to have insurance, Progressive, like Geico, State Farm, Allstate. You got to pay them. So where are you getting it? I thought you couldn't give. If we give our first fruits to him, his promise is, I'm going to take care of you. I'm not going to give you what you're greedy for, but I am going to give you everything you need. Do you believe that? Because many believers, I love the Lord. No, you just like the Lord very much. And you love your things. Don't get wrapped up in this world and what the things of this world have to offer you. They're dying. But look at everything from the eternal perspective, and you'll live a rich life no matter how much you have or you don't have. Abba, we thank you. Lord, we thank you.